the crown, roll keys to bets. My team, my vision, placing bold bets. Strategies drawn with passion and might. Gridiron tactics with all the night. Set my line up, it's time, gotta make that call. Dynasty dreams, I won't let them fall. Every yard, every play, it's all on me. The future's bright, champions you'll see. Hold the line and fight the sound. In Dynasty, we'll own this ground. Trading players, build it strong. In this league, we'll right the wrong.
How's it going? Woo-woo. Welcome back to the Fantasy Flyer Fiddy Tree Edition, the Dynasty League to rule them all. We are back with episode 4 of the Fiddy Tree season, and in episode 2 and in episode 3, we looked at the other 9 rosters besides my own in our 53-man Dynasty League, including IDPs. It's a deep league, deep. And now it is time for me to take my turn to focus on my team and how we got here. If you're wondering why it's only my team, and I'm going to show you the off season and how we got here from the end of last season and all the moves that we made. And if you're wondering why it's only my team, it's because I run the show and I can do what I want. And if they want to do it for their team, they can have their own YouTube channel.
What an asshole.
So anyway, it's still fair. I still want to include everybody in here. I'm hoping to have some guest hosts very, very soon, extremely soon, actually. You will see a mock draft from us probably in the next 48 hours. So I do want to point that out, where we will have one of the league mates on to do a rookie mock draft, and we will also have the cut video up as well to go to detail all of the cuts, as those will be enforced on the 13th, which is Wednesday of next week. Tuesday of next week. Calendars are fun. Anyway, I want to bring my team into perspective on this episode. We're going to go through how we got to where we are right now. We are going to touch on the rule voting, and that has been completed, and what rules have changed that will go into effect for next season. And we are also going to talk about all of the league-wide moves, not just my own. We're going to go through all of them. So let's jump right in. We'll start with how my roster got to where it is, and it'll kind of lead us nicely into all of the moves that have been made for the offseason. So let's quick jump right back in to the pictures that I have. I will move my camera over just like that. See, it was amazing. Quick editing, magic. We will talk about my team as it sits. So this is my quarterback room, or what it was at the end of last season. I'm going to bring it up on my phone because I'm only looking at it very small on my screen, and it's only fair that I get to see what the hell I'm talking about. So you'll see that Derek Carr, $29. Kyler Murray, who was $46. I had Kenny Pickett, who at the time was the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I also had Joe Flacco, who finished out the season for the Cleveland Browns. Jameis Winston, who was touch and go a little bit with Derek Carr, but it was a good handcuff to have. So you can see these salaries are, if you paid attention, or you will see shortly, they are all $3 generally as far as offensive players. They're $3 lower than what they are now. That's the automatic salary increase. I brought it up in the first 2 episodes. So next we had at the running back position, Zach Charbonnet was the 8th overall pick for me in last year's draft. I had Jerome Ford, Dalvin Cook, Zach Evans, Roshan Johnson, who was a mid-second round pick. I want to say 2.5. Jerick McKinnon, Devin Singletary, Rashad White, solid running back core. Didn't really have anything other than Rashad White, who was consistent. Devin Singletary kind of poked his head out in Houston as we got towards the later half of the season. And then Roshan was hit and miss. Jerome Ford was crucial after Nick Chubb went down. Wide receiver, pretty deep at wide receiver, to be honest. Jameson Williams was I picked up at the trade deadline last year. Got rid of Mike Evans and Evan Ingram. I got a couple picks in Jameson Williams in return. Rashee Rice, who was a third-round pick for me last year. Michael Pittman, standout. Khalil Shakir, who I picked up off waiver wire at the end of the year for $2. Deontay Johnson. Quentin Johnston, who is the 7th overall pick. We'll talk about him a little later. DeAndre Hopkins, and then, of course, Pop Douglas, who actually got in the 6th round. He fell all the way down there. I had him scouted since last July. Ian, I'll tell you. To the tight end position, Tyler Conklin, Noah Fant, Foster Moreau. Someone put in the crickets because it's not great. I had Greg Dulcich as well. He only played 3 games last year, so that was a bit of a problem. Defensively, I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time here. Drafted Will Anderson. Got Joey Bosa in the trade with Jameson Williams. Trayvon Walker, who's slowly been going downhill since his rookie year. Jalen Carter, who didn't pop quite as well in his rookie year. Hopefully he does in year 2. To the linebacker position, Dayan Henley, I believe, is already scheduled. He's one of the top 2 starting linebackers now in his 2nd year. So I'm excited to see Dayan Henley get out there. Drew Tranquill, who has been a tackle master the last 2 years. Didn't do so much in Kansas City last year. But when he was with the Chargers, I had 280 points with him, I believe, or something like that. Maybe it was 180. I might be exaggerating. Christian Harris, who I drafted not last year but the year before, was a great rookie addition to the team. And then Chris Barnes. To the cornerback position, Sauce Gardner, Darius Slay, Denzel Ward, Devon Witherspoon. Ooh, words are difficult. Witherspoon, huge. Denzel Ward, Sauce Gardner played very well. Honestly, this was a pretty good group for me. The biggest issue with these guys was kind of keeping them healthy. You can see that none of them were really amazingly high on the cornerback points. 140 for Witherspoon was pretty good. The rest of them, it was kind of rotation, depending on who would be injured. With the new cornerback rules, as you've seen in the other videos, the higher point totals there, those are reflecting the point changes that we see now. And you can see there's a good 40, 50, 60 point difference in a lot of these guys, so if not more. And then the final page, we have my safeties: Brian Branch, Jaquan Brisker, a.k.a. Brisker Biscuit, Jeremy Chin, Minka Fitzpatrick, and Richie Grant. There was $41 in salary adjustments, which was $41 I believe I sent. No, $41 I was to get it back. That was from cutting players that had not been signed or trades that I had sent money out in. You can see at the bottom there, Kaiser White, Matt Judon, and Greg Dulcich on the IR. They have all been activated as of this point, if not moved on to other homes in the case of Kaiser White. So yeah, that is the immediate breakdown of my roster as of, we'll call it like January 1st. I don't think I made any moves after January 1st. And of course, you know, we stop week 16. Week 16 is our final week for playoffs. No, it is week 17 because there's 18 weeks. So week 17 is our championship, and then we don't play week 18, and then it's just NFL playoffs IRL in real life. And so that brings us to the present, and now I will show you guys all of the trades that have happened because there are quite a few, and I will do that right after this break. Hey guys, so recently I found out that I had 3 Netflix subscriptions. 3. Can you believe that? I needed the help of my own hands to open my bank account app and see that, because I notice when things come out of my account because I pay the fuck attention. And I don't need to pay anybody any sort of money of my hard-earned money for them to do something that I can do by just opening my bank account. So don't pay anybody, pay attention to your finances, and end stupid YouTube ads. All right, sorry for that ad there, guys. But we are back. We're going to take a look at all of the moves that have been made this offseason since the league became active for 2024, which is on or around June 3rd. So, and I want to kind of show how I got my team to where we're at right now and what my mindset was for the offseason going into this one. I can tell you right now, last offseason was the dip, like the lowest of the low, I thought. I think of every rebuild as you kind of go down and you out and you come back up. And last offseason was definitely the very bottom, and we started to take a turn up. I traded for a couple players last offseason, which, that's a little too in the past to talk about, but we will focus on what it meant coming into this year. I was 4-10 last year, which is not great, obviously. But I knew that the pieces were there to start making some moves, and so some of the player movement during the offseason really helped initiate that. Because in reality, all of your moves on your fantasy team, especially in Dynasty, reflect what you are doing or what you are seeing on the field. So every little, I'm a firm believer that for most players, fantasy value fluctuates on almost a daily basis, except for like, I would say May until like July. And even then, sometimes you can see some fluctuation in there based on either injuries or trades or signings or anything of that nature. So coming into this offseason, I knew I had to get a little bit creative and I had to get aggressive. And so I was very set on this being the offseason where I come in here and I absolutely put my back into it. And I am going to make a big charge this year. And I just said,
They can kiss my fat vagina, because I'm bringing the motherfucking pay.
that was my mindset right there. And I was just so about it. And so the first thing I did, I'm pretty good. I'm on talking terms with, I would say, 9 of 9 when it comes to the league. If there's a trade that I think I can have, and I think most of us are. I'm not alone in that. But I hit up Dorn, who was in episode 2. We talked about his roster, and I talked about trying to get he was trying to get rid of a wide receiver. So I traded Deontay Johnson and a 25-second for T. Higgins. Deontay Johnson is going to be a little bit of a target hog in Carolina. I like T. Higgins. The thing you won't see on the screen is salaries. So I'll tell you, Deontay Johnson cost $22. T. Higgins cost $40. But I do like. I mean, it's T. Higgins. He's 25 years old. He's younger. If it doesn't work out in Cincinnati, he's going to be a wide receiver 1 or at worst a wide receiver 2 somewhere else. So that's why I decided to pick up T. Higgins. Ate up a little bit of my cap, and it didn't get better. I also brought up this trade in, I believe it was the second episode. I traded Derek Carr, Devin Singletary, Jacoby Myers, Tyler Conklin, and a host of draft picks. A first and 26, a sixth this year, this draft, a 25-second, a 27-second. And I got Matthew Stafford, Saquon Barkley, T.J. Hawkinson, and a 4th rounder this year. So the gamble here is T.J. Hawkinson. He's not going to play for probably the first 4 to 6 weeks at least due to his ACL injury. Saquon obviously is a place, running back was a place I needed. As you just saw from my roster, Rashad White was all that was there. And I did need to trade down a little bit on the quarterback as far as salary and cost per dollar. So I thought it was a very good trade to kind of establish myself to the league that I am making a run at it. And it's no secret, right? I thought for so long that you could kind of keep these moves like, oh, they won't see this coming. Everybody sees it. Everybody sees it. So don't do that. If you are going to announce your presence, announce your presence. If you're going to announce that you are not a sleeper, but a mid-tier, then do that. If you are tanking this year, for lack of a better phrase, then don't be afraid to do that. Let your teammates know. These 2 moves, getting T. Higgins, improving all 4 of my key offensive positions within, one of these was June 29th, and one of these was July 4th. Within 1 week, I told the league, I'm here this year, and I want to see what I can do. So, we had the DeAndre Swift trade, which I brought up. DeAndre Swift for Josh Palmer, Jonathan Greenard, and a 3rd-round pick. I think that's a pretty good trade with the new the new defensive scoring rules. Josh Palmer probably going to be at least the wide receiver 2, if not wide receiver 1 with the Chargers. 3rd-round pick next year for DeAndre Swift, who's going to lead Chicago's backfield. Fantastic. We got some drops and some activations in here. Like I said, Matt, I said this in the last episode, Matt is one of the first to kind of say, these guys have no value to me. They probably have no value to anybody in the league. They are free agents. There isn't really a huge notable name in here, to be honest. Jordan Fuller, Jalen Ramsey maybe. Justin Simmons, who is visiting as of today, as of recording, he was visiting with the Saints today. Activated Aaron Rodgers, who was on IR, obviously. Dropped Tyler Boyd, KJ Osborne. Rob activated Ramondre Stevenson, Deshaun Watson, Justin Herbert. There you go. Thumbs up for all of them. I dropped, basically, I kind of followed Matt's lead. Just a few days later, I dropped some people just to make myself feel a little bit better. The biggest name that was probably dropped out of these names was Cortland Sutton. Obviously, Cortland Sutton he was $32, which was the big thing for me, is I needed, by picking up T. Higgins, I could drop Cortland Sutton. And I think Sutton is limited in his ceiling this year because of Bo Nix or Jarrett Stidham or especially Zach Wilson, because Zach Wilson is, well, how do I put this?
Okay, let's see here. Toilet paper? Toilet paper?
Buns.
Toilet paper.
Cheeks.
Toilet paper?
Hole.
Toilet paper?
Colon. He's not good. So, I didn't really trust in Cortland Sutton that much. I got rid of him. Minka Fitzpatrick was gone. Zach Evans, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, of course, Dalvin Cook is a free agent. Pickett behind Hurts. So I dropped all of that, cleared out $130 or $140 in cap right there, and brought myself below that $500. And I'll show you where I'm at currently after we're done in a little bit. Kirk Cousins, Hendon Hooker, Jordan Hicks activated by Taylor. I activated Matt Judon and Greg Dulcich. I released Kaiser White. And then just today, all of this happening today, Wednesday, August 7th, as of recording, I traded Greg Dulcich for a 5th-round pick this year. Dulcich is currently 2nd on the depth chart that was just released. It's an unofficial depth chart. But, I have Noah Fant. I have TJ Hawkinson. It's going to be a little bit touch and go the first month and a half of the season. But I feel like that could also be the case with Dulcich. And again, that's not a great offense. I'll say it for like the 4th video in a row. Great offenses make great fantasy players, and that's not a great offense. So if that team's going to score 15, 17, 18 points, how much is Dulcich really valuable to me? And also I needed the salary. I was big on cutting salary, and you'll see where I'm at a little bit, because we have arbitration that is actually coming on the 9th, which is Friday. And that arbitration is going to stack probably a full $35 onto my players that I already have. And I have about $40 to $50 in draft picks that are waiting in the wings as well when that starts next Friday. So I need to figure and factor all of that in, and balancing the books essentially started with me getting rid of Greg Dulcich today. Not exactly one that I wanted to do. I was a big fan of Dulcich, but there isn't really many other players that I'd rather move, so I have to take the lesser of two evils. Right after that, literally 2 hours later, I traded Trayvon Walker and my 410, the 10th pick in the 4th round, to move up in the 4th round to the 4th overall pick in the 4th round. So 410 and Trayvon Walker for 4-4. Spoiler to Dorn, and I hate to say this, but Trayvon Walker was on my drop list. So I essentially, in my eyes, I got that for free. Now, in Dorn's eyes, it helped him a lot because $3 is probably roughly the going average for defensive ends that have his abilities on this new scoring platform under the free agency. Like what the scoring, what his dollar per score would probably go for. He'd probably go for $3 on the free agency anyway, and somebody may even push him to $4. So it checks somebody off his list. It gets him a defensive end that he can put on his roster that he doesn't overpay for necessarily, and then he just slides down and around. That isn't all that. It isn't crazy impressive for him. He owns the 2nd overall pick. He owns the 9th overall pick. It's not a round that he's really focusing on right now. His key picks are those 2 picks. So, and then Colton went through, activated Joe Burrow, Jelani Woods, Jeffrey Simmons, and dropped a whole bunch of players just to kind of even it out a little bit. I am a little surprised he dropped Troutman, because Troutman is the tight end who is ahead of Dulcich on the depth chart. But again, I do understand if you have the offense that doesn't really work, it's not really going to help you much. So, so that's the 411 of how we got here for my roster, and I will now show you that in just 2 seconds. All right, here's my roster as it sits. My quarterback, Kyler Murray, and my second quarterback, Matthew Stafford. Obviously going to need a third option there. looking at the real quick, as before we get too far into it, I have $500 in cap. 70 or $500 is the cap. 430 of mine with $70 in space. So that seems like it's a fair amount of space, but in reality, it's not. Arbitration is going to cost a good chunk of money. That's probably all 35 I can expect, and then my draft picks could be anywhere between $40 and $50, which I believe I mentioned earlier in this video. So there is, that right there puts me over 500 if I don't get some names out of here. So real quick, I started to do the math on this, and I thought I had a lot more money than I really did. And when I started to do
earnings into
the
foreign
math,
currency accounts with compounding interest, and it's gone.
it was gone.
Don't worry, we can just transfer money from your account into a portfolio with your son, and it's gone.
I don't have a lot of money at all anymore, but that's okay because we've improved the team. So, looking at the running back spot, Saquon Barkley, $59. You got to kind of pay it at that running back position. I also have Rashad White, who's my other starter. Zach Charbonnet, Jerome Ford, Roshan Johnson for some depth. Charbonnet and Ford, mostly Ford, I think, is going to be the starter, my third starter for week 1, 2, 3 for right now. Depends on how it breaks down, but that's my projection. Obviously, between the quarterback, we need a third one. Running back, we could use another couple running backs, even if they're not necessarily the starters, but if they are the handcuffs for maybe Rashad White or for Saquon, for example. Bucky Irving is a draft option for me. The wide receiver position, Demario Douglas, T. Higgins, DeAndre Hopkins is a drop candidate for me just for space. Quentin Johnston, despite being a first-round pick for me last year, is a drop candidate because even if he hits being the third wide receiver in that Chargers offense, I just don't see him being a starter for me, with all these other options that I have. Sky Moore, who is fallen into the bench rotation for the wide receivers, probably also a drop candidate. Trey Palmer, Michael Pittman, Rashee Rice, Khalil Shakir, Jamison Williams, those 5 probably not going anywhere. Noah Fant and TJ Hawkinson are my 2 tight ends. I mean, you can see that it's quarterback, running back, tight end for me, and then I need some help at those 3 positions to really, basically to make sure that the roster is balanced. So, for the defensive tackle and defensive end position with the new scoring, hopefully all 4 of these gentlemen, Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, Joey Bosa, Matthew Judon, will both have breakout years or better years. Joey Bosa and Matt Judon were injured last year. Will Anderson, Jalen Carter, young players that I've drafted, and they will only probably be $2, maybe $3 if they get hit in arbitration. Linebackers, Christian Harris, Deion Henley, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I like all 3 of them. Dan Henley's supposed to be a starter this year. Christian Harris has already carved out his role in the Houston defense, as has Owusu-Koramoah. I like keeping all 3 of these right now. I think my defense right now is pretty set. I think it's just those 3 wide receivers we were talking about that are on the cut block for me. Sauce Gardner, Darius Slay, Denzel Ward, Devin Witherspoon, the 4 cornerbacks I have, also probably keeping at least 3 of them. There's an option to cut something if I need some extra cash. That might be Denzel Ward. Injured a little last year, but should be a good option this year going forward. He's returned to that starting role. And then for the safeties, we have Brian Branch, Jaquan Brisker, and Richie Grant. All 3, as you can see by the point totals down here, all 3 fantastic options for the safety. So that's my 33 players. It'll be at least 31, maybe 30 by the time we hit the actual cut period, the cut deadline, which is on Tuesday the 13th. So that'll be after arbitration, which is what is going to be coming up very shortly. The next thing we are going to cover is the rule changes, and we'll actually go jump from rule changes right into the arbitration, and I'm going to do this arbitration live with you guys, and then we will submit it to the commissioner so that can be done. That is due tomorrow. Today is the 8th. I'm recording now on the 8th, started on the 7th, finishing on the 8th. Tomorrow arbitration is due, so we're going to do that live in the video, and that's coming up next. All right, so the rule change vote did occur and end earlier this week. I believe it ended on Monday at 9 o'clock. Votes were tallied. All 10 members in the league have the right to vote. You can abstain from certain votes if you don't feel like you have an opinion on it, or if it doesn't really matter to you, I guess. However you want to word that. But in general, you should be able to vote on something. We had 7 league proposals, 7 proposals. Good gosh, words are difficult. And they surrounded mostly scoring. I will find them real quick. Where are we? There we are. So the first, was it 7? Wasn't even 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We had 5. 5 rule changes. So the first one surrounded changing 2 tight ends to 1 tight end, and then the other tight end spot would be a second flex, and then it would also increase tight end scoring to 1.5 times, essentially making the league a tight end premium. This vote passed 7-2. So one of the big changes, that'll be for next year, not for 2024, but for 2025, it is going to go to a tight end premium, and only 1 tight end is mandatory. In a position where there's a big gap between the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th tight end and the 10th, 11th, 12th tight end, it makes sense as a league, and I think, judging that it was it passed 7-2. It does make sense that this is something that was tackled and that a lot in the league were for. And the 2 tight end format was a struggle for a lot of teams, especially with tight ends that weren't necessarily staying healthy. You couldn't spend a whole heck of a lot of money on tight ends because of the demand that wide receivers and running backs and quarterbacks put on. And it was not that the price differential between a top tier tight end and a top tier running back, quarterback, whatever, is $20, $30, $40. So it allows you to essentially still compete with just 1 tight end. So that did pass. The second proposal was to change our 4th linebacker spot to a linebacker, defensive tackle, or defensive end flex. So it allows you to essentially make a 3-4 or 4-3 defense with your starting lineup, which is very interesting. That one also passed 7-2. With the new scoring implemented, it does make sense to kind of flex that out and to allow a little more flexibility for the general managers such as ourselves. The third rule change that was suggested was defensive draft picks having a tiered system. The first 3 rounds, any defensive pick would be $3. Rounds 4 and 5, they'd be $2. Round 6, they'd be $1 fresh off the draft. That did not pass 5-4. That was a failed movement. I personally suggested that, and I still think it's a pretty good idea, but I also understand the idea that arbitration could help balance out some of these better rookies that are going to step in and get 160, 180, 200 points for $1. And it just comes down to that happening and going into the second year. And some of these defensive players that have an amazing first season may see themselves go from $1 to $5, $6, $7. And then the general manager who drafted them may just lose out on that draft pick after 1 year because they have to go into the free agency pool. But all in all, I don't hate that didn't pass. The fourth suggested rule or proposed rule change: all annual automatic salary increases for offense and defense become $2. And it was currently $3 for offense, $1 for defense once the league year opened in June. That did not pass 5-3. That was a little bit of I changed my vote, actually, I think with like several hours left. I was a yes, and then I went to a no, and that was actually probably at least part of the difference. But essentially that would have it would have taken the need for any arbitration on defensive players away for the most part. You also would not have a $2, barring passing the first rule with the defensive draft picks in their tiered system. You would not have a defensive player at $2, which is really the sweet spot for some of these guys. You can keep onto them for 2 years. They go from $1 to $2, and you can keep them for 2 years. And then some of the really good ones you keep for $3 and $4, and then you get rid of them maybe. So that did not pass. And then the final one is an automatic salary increase that was applied to certain players that had specific amounts of points or games played. That one failed 8-1. It was a very valid point that was brought up in arguing that one. Is essentially players who weren't going to play didn't get an automatic salary increase, and then the players who played really well were going to get smashed in arbitration, and you'd get $8, $10, $12, $15 added onto them because they played really well in their rookie season. But then the rule, which was to basically, if you had 2 or more games with 10 or more fantasy points, or scored 35 or more total fantasy points for the previous season, they would, if they didn't hit that mark, they wouldn't get a salary increase. And it was tough to see an automatic salary increase for those that didn't and those that did, and it was a big wash. And I don't think we were really a big fan of that suggestion. Obviously, as the group suggested, 8-1 against that. So the 3 rules that passed: the tight ends and the second flex, the tight end scoring increase, and then the linebacker, defensive end, defensive tackle flex. So those rules will be passed for 2025. It does allow for a little bit. Honestly, all of that allows for lineup construction to be more flexible for the general managers. So it does allow us a little bit of a relaxed drafting atmosphere, both defensively and offensively. So that is the rules that have been passed. However, the last thing we are going to do for this episode, and as you can see it on the screen, we are going to go through and do the arbitration. I will put the final marks up. I'll mark them in my book as I go through this, and I will just share my thoughts as to how I do this. And from that point on, we can discuss a little bit about each team and how it was set up. I'll probably look into some of these players more. I need a better piece of paper. Hold on. So let's go through this one at a time. I have a total of $35 that I can use on no more than $5. The rules for this, let me start off with this. The rules for this, you have to do $1 to every team. Every team has to get $1 placed on some player. No team can have more than $5 on any team, and you can use no more or less than $35. So you have to allocate $35. You have to do $1 to at least $1 to every team, and you have to do no more than $5 to any team at that same time. Okay? So with 10 teams, you would have 9, not including yourself. You could go up to 45. The max is 35, and you can spread it. So you have to be selective with your dollars. So to start off, I'm going to we'll start with Pigeon Commander, Zach Graham, the commissioner. The first thing that pops into mind here, obviously, Breece Hall, who is a top 3 running back in the league, very young player. There's no point in tacking on Jamar or A.J. Brown anymore, in my opinion. Devontae Adams, the same. He doesn't really have a lot of young players that would make a lot of sense. Quarterback, no. I mean, Jalen Hurts at $38 is a bit of a steal because he was the second highest scoring quarterback, I believe, in our league, behind Josh Allen, who's right over here. For $38, I don't think it really does a lot, but I might put $1 on Jalen Hurts. I think Breece is going to get $2 of mine just because of where his position stands. The price for these guys has to be fair, and I feel like for Breece at 34, and then you look at Derrick Henry, who's at 63, and then the age difference, it only makes sense to attach at least a couple dollars to Breece. So real quick, I'm going to write that down. I'll give $1 to Jalen Hurts because I can. Tight end, no real young options. We can look at defensive players. I didn't mention this when I went through 2 episodes ago about Mike Hilton's contract. He spent a lot of money to get Mike Hilton, and it's just, I mean, it's an easy cut, first off. He's not worth $68 in our league format, so that's an easy way to get his salary down. Roquan at 13 is probably going to get cut. I don't see any other real rookies that would make a lot of sense. Kyle Hamilton at $3 is questionable. I'm tempted by that. At $3 for 207, because the scoring has changed, right? Like our scoring it's different. What am I doing? I have to look this up. League. See if it's in franchise information. Might be under league rules. Oh, that is just for the franchise. We don't need that. League rules. scoring. There we go, scoring rules. So let's go back here for cornerback. 8.4 for a fumble. Let's look for tackles, things that make more sense. Defensive tackles is 2.1 points. Sacking is 4.2. Tackle for loss 2.1. Let's see. Passes defended is 2.1. Interceptions 4.2. There we go. There's the scoring rule for it. And then safeties, even a little higher. Defensive tackles, oh, that's 1.8 for a tackle versus 2.1 for a cornerback. So safeties aren't quite as high. 2.9 on defensive assists to 1.5. Passes defended at 1.8 to the cornerbacks 2.1. So, okay. So we'll go back. I think that's going to push me away from Kyle Hamilton. So, who else is worthy of some dollars here? I don't see any of the tight ends as being valuable enough, so we'll rule all them out. I gave $1 to Jalen Hurts. I might make that $2. I think I'm gonna, just to push that up a little bit more. He's definitely more than a $40 quarterback, so his price is not league-wide. It does not match what you would see out of somebody at his stature. And just for example, Patrick Mahomes is at $68, Josh Allen's at $58, so he has some room to get hit there. And then I'm going to put $1 on Brian Robinson just because he is low. It is an interesting, a lot of folks probably wouldn't say with the addition of Austin Eckler to that offense that this is worth it, but Austin Eckler is 29 years old. And other than Brian Robinson, Eckler is the only person who could get in his way. And I think it's worth it for Robinson, who's still young. I want to say he's 25. He turned 25. So there's the $5 for PC. So we got 5 done. Now we're going to go on to Tolbertus Galactus, which is Ian. Blessings, sir. You can have this blessings with this arbitration. Damn it. So let's see real quick as we hit that. There's flat $5 to the. All right, so Jahmyr Gibbs is a home run pick here. I think I know Ian's smart enough to know Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get smashed, but so is Puka Nacua. So I think it's very easy for this. You know, we have some of the older tight ends down here. There's no reason. Brock Purdy also at $16 is an option. And I think we're going to spread this pretty evenly. I think we're going to go with Puka's going to get 2. Puka at $2. I'm going to do Gibbs $2. And then Purdy, I'm going to do $1. Because Brock Purdy at $16 is just very cheap as well. I mean, he had the same amount of fantasy points as Patrick Mahomes. So, Ian really shouldn't be that concerned still, however, with his salary. Despite this, he knows that he has $35 coming, and it's probably 34 of the $35 going to Puka, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Brock Purdy. So, not surprised by any of that. So, moving along to the next one. Next roster, we'll do Dorn next. Now, Dorn is in an interesting spot, and, I don't look for, you can only spend $35. Every team has to get 1, no team more than 5. So, I mean, somewhere you're getting a lighter, you're going to go light on a couple teams. Dorn, I don't go into these looking for the team that, maybe they deserve a little bit of a break. But I can tell you right now that there is not a lot on Dorn's team that I feel needs to get hit. Jordan Addison is probably the first. I know CD at $47 is an option. Addison and... I feel like Addison and maybe Will Levis make the most sense. So I'm going to just do $2 to each of them and call that a day and leave him with only 4. Looking over his roster, doing the video yesterday, or the day before, I can tell you that there was not a lot that really intrigued me about cost efficiency there. Kenneth Walker is an option for the other $1, but honestly, for what it's worth, he's going to have competition this year anyway, so I'm not going to go ahead and hit that. To Colton's team. I'm writing these down as I go, obviously. Young Joka's demise for Colton. Quarterback situation. He as I showed earlier in this video when I was going through all the transactions, he has activated everybody off IR. So Joe Burrow is back active at 53, Trevor Lawrence at 35. Neither one of those entice me. Chase Brown is an option because of what I'm hearing out of training camp. He seems to be like he could be in line for a solid role. So I'm intrigued by him. Looking down a little further, Josh Downs going into his second year. He's going to be questionable for week 1, and I bet you he probably misses week 1 just so that he can come back fully healthy week 2 or week 3. He's an option. He had a very solid year. Sam Laporta, there's a name we're going to hit. Sam Laporta at $13. That's the first one I'm writing down. Sam Laporta was the tight end one in a fantastic offense. The offense hasn't changed. I'm giving Sam Laporta $3 just from myself. So, and then I'm going to give Chase Brown $1. And I think we'll leave Downs alone because there is going to be, by the end of the year, he could see some competition from Adonai Mitchell. I don't think that's worth going out of my way to give $1 to. There isn't really anybody else, even defensively, who's worthy of that other $1, in my opinion. So we will leave that at $4. So for the first 4 teams, we have $5, $10, $14, $18. So I have $17 to spend on the other 5 teams. We'll go to little buff boys down here. Jimmy Osborne, Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield, C.J. Stroud. Stroud should probably get smacked here. Zay Flowers is another option. These younger players who are just very cheap, and I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to go 2 and 2. I think I'll do Stroud. Stroud's going to get 2, and then we'll put 2 on Flowers, and we will let that go. Flowers in line for a huge workload, I think, in Baltimore. So, to Rob. I'm going to have to start writing on my leg. I'm going to the bottom of the piece of paper. Rob is... it's rough for Rob as well. There is not, like, a standout young player. Like, if I wanted to stretch, you could go to Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave, but the fact that he has both of them together, it's like, who's going to score 1 week? Like, look at these points. I know there's an injury to Luke Musgrave, but, like, this is so tough to even put $1 on. James Cook is probably the closest for me because he is still a starting running back. He had 258 points, was his leading scorer, and was his 3rd or 4th highest salary. So I like that. And Jordan Love, too. I almost missed Jordan Love. So Jordan Love, huge contract. He got a huge contract extension. Me, too. Jordan Love gets $3. James Cook is going to get $1. We will save $1 there. So now we have 5, 10, 14, 18, 22, 26. So we have $9 with 3 teams left. And they are... Kirk, we're going to skip mine, obviously. You don't do your own. This is tough. For Taylor, I'm going to give him $3 to A-Chain, and we'll call it a day. I don't think we need to go into... I believe in Zamir, but there's a chance he does not... there's a chance he does not pan out. And then, of course, you have Tyjae Spears in there as well, but Tyjae Spears is playing, Tony Pollard is there as well. So the other option, well, actually, Olave at 30 is fine. Moore at 38 is fine. Debo is 41. Don't really need to go out of our way for that. Last 2 teams, $6 left, if my math is correct. 5, 10, 14, 18... 22, 26, 29. We got $6, 3 to go to each. Matt with Kyron at $10 and Bijan at 15. We may be reworking this $1 from PC. We may actually add that. There isn't really a lot otherwise here. There's no wide receivers. Dalton Kincaid too, 13. Bijan and Kyron. Obviously Bijan, I think, over Kyron. Kyron's gonna have. It's going to be tough here to do this. So we're going to remove Brian Robinson's $1 from PC. We need to balance this out a little bit more. Anything that was close, we're going to have to. Chase Brown, I'm going to take out his $1 from Colton's team because I'm going to give Bijan, that allows me 5 for Matt. So Bijan's going to get $2. And then Kincaid's going to get 2, and Kyron's going to get 1. Sorry, Matt, but you have a lot of young people. What did I do here? There we go. And then the last team, Whacker. And I think the real answer here for this team is, I mean, Jackson Smith and Jigba or Anthony Richardson. And it's probably both of them. Only $3. I'll give Richardson 2 and JSN 1, and we will call it a day. So real quick, we're going to go through and just add this up. So bear with me. Make sure I'm not insane. 4 plus 5 plus 4. I wrote $4 for Addison. 4 plus 5 plus 4 plus 3 plus 4 plus 4 plus 3 plus 5 plus 3 is $35. Everybody has a dollar somewhere. Doot. I am probably predicting my own. We can look back up here and look at my roster. I predict a couple dollars maybe to Jameson just because he's having a great camp. Rasheed Rice is going to get hit. He's probably going to go from 11 to like $24 or $26. If not, maybe even a little bit more. Demario Douglas will probably get a couple bucks. He's looking again like he's going to flash out in New England. Charbonnet may get a couple bucks. Rashad White may get a couple bucks. Roshan may get a couple bucks. It could be very spread between these guys. The easiest thing on a GM side in this league to do is to understand that you are going to get $35 and just add it into your plans. And then know who you're keeping and deal with the salary during the season or during next off season. Because you're realistically, when you get to $30, $35 for most of these players, bar a few exceptions, you're either not going to care about the salary if it goes up $2, $3, $5, $7 higher than you thought, or they being everyone else, the other owners, are going to stop putting it on there because they know that it can be spent better somewhere else. So the balance is it's great the way that balance is set out. So that is going to do it for this episode of the Fiddy Tree Fantasy Flyer series. I hope you guys are enjoying this. Please give this video a like. Leave me comments too if you think my opinions are dumb, if you think my opinions are smart. I won't expect many of the latter, but I do enjoy some bantering and bickering, so please feel free to comment. Subscribe to the channel if you like this series. This is the only series that's going to bring you in-depth to this sort of league that is extremely, extremely in-depth itself. So there's a lot to talk about, unfortunately, but we will be expanding our horizons to new stuff. There are new dynasty ideas that this league brings and new situations that you have to address. So I do hope that some people do learn some things as far as the dynasty format goes, and they are a little more interested. We do have, in my personal opinion, really one of the greatest leagues, but I wanted to show off my team. This is going to be my perspective. I will loop everybody in as we come back to it and as the situations arise. I also combined 2 episodes into this one. I put the rules and the arbitration that were going to be its own separate 25-minute video. I put it on the end of this one because there is a surprise rookie mock draft for Fiddy Tree. I will have a guest from the league helping me mock draft for Fiddy Tree. That will come out tomorrow, August 12th, and it will be live on the Fantasy Flyer Guys YouTube page. Somewhere around noon, I believe that will be that video will go live. So stay tuned for that rookie mock draft with a fellow GM, and we're gonna go through and see what kind of moves we expect these teams to make. We'll give you a little analyzation of that, and we'll hope to see you then. So give this video a like. You guys take care. As always, we're gonna end it, except for like that one video earlier this year. We're gonna end it with the usual Bob Barker. You guys take care. Have a good one.
Bob Barker reminding you, help control the pet population. Have your pet spayed or neutered. Goodbye, everybody.